Hawaiʻi, the Big Island. It's a place that invites you to slow down, whether you plan to or not. I came here thinking it would be a great place to practice mindful photography. I had an idea of what that meant, an intention, but I hadn't actually done it yet. Not as a personal genre, not as a way of working, and not as a creative language of my own. At first, I did what most people do. I admired the majesty, the beauty, the scale of what I was witnessing. The ocean, the sky, the way light moved across water without ever settling in one place. It was impressive, and it was easy to be impressed. But somewhere along the way, something quieter began to happen. I realized I wasn't just seeing Hawaii, I was being changed by how I was seeing. Mindful photography stopped being about making images. It became about learning how to arrive, to notice when I was present and when I wasn't, to feel the difference between looking and actually seeing. As I continued my journey and my presence deepened, something else began to surface. I found myself searching, not for places, not for shots, but for meaning. At first, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that admiration wasn't enough anymore. I wasn't satisfied with simply witnessing beauty. I wanted to understand my relationship to it. This is where the land began to speak differently to me. Not through scale, but through closeness. Leaves, plants, dew resting quietly on edges that might disappear by afternoon. I started noticing how much could be said with very little. My compositions began to simplify, often just one element, sometimes two, rarely centered. Negative space stopped feeling empty. It felt intentional, like silence between words. I didn't have a name for it yet, but I could feel a direction forming, a kind of Zen sensibility, not as an aesthetic, but as an attitude. Letting things be as they are, letting the frame breathe, trusting subtle movement over spectacle. I was still searching for meaning, still trying to understand what all of this was pointing toward. But occasionally, in brief moments, something aligned. A leaf against open sky, a drop of water holding light, a quiet balance between form and space. And for a moment, I wasn't searching anymore. I was simply here. Those moments didn't last, but they were enough to show me a direction. Not answers, just a path. And then, just like that, the weather changes. Not as a problem, not as a loss, just as a shift. The light doesn't disappear, it tells a different story. Color softens, contrast eases, edges blur just enough to ask for a slower kind of attention. Hawaii doesn't offer good weather or bad weather. It offers conditions. And every condition carries its own way of seeing. Volcanic rock darkens under cloud cover. Waves strike the shoreline with a quieter intensity. Fog drifts through the morning without asking to be cleared. The ancients did not fear the weather, they moved with it. In these moments, I stopped thinking in terms of improvement. I wasn't trying to make the light better. I was learning how to meet it. Muted tones didn't mean less presence. They asked for more listening, more patience, more trust in what the moment was already offering. I realized how often we label conditions too quickly. Good light, bad weather. But the land wasn't lacking anything. Only my attention needed to shift. Every change in weather was an invitation to change how I saw. Not away from presence, but deeper into it. Standing there with stone, fog, wind, or water, I understood something simple. No matter the light, there is always presence, and presence is always enough to tell the story. As the day loosens its hold, the light changes again. Not in a hurry, not to announce anything, just a quiet turning. Color drifts across ocean and mountain. Warmth lingers, then gives way. The sky holds what remains without asking to be named. I wasn't thinking about meaning anymore, at least not in words. I felt, and what I felt was a kind of destiny, a sense that something invisible was gathering. Meaningfulness isn't something you decide. It isn't something you extract from a moment. It forms when attention has stayed long enough for energy to settle. The same place, the same view, but something is different. Not because the light is extraordinary, but because presence has deepened. After the brightest tones fade, what remains is fulfilled emptiness. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to be held. I realized that meaning doesn't belong to the image. It lives in the meeting between light and awareness. These moments don't conclude anything, they simply rest. Traces of days spent noticing, of time allowed to unfold, of light passing through without resistance. This is not the essence of Hawaiʻi, but its eternal presence. It's what stays when I stop trying to define it.